All right, it's 5:01. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. First of all, how are y'all feeling? Everybody doing okay? Good. Thank you for coming out on this Friday evening to spend some time with the School of Engineering and Applied Science, Center for Diversity and Engineering, and Office of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement for our MLK community celebration with our distinguished guest, Dr. Wesley Harris. You're going to hear a little bit more about all of his accomplishments, or many of his accomplishments, throughout the talk and also through some additional introductions. But when us as a committee, we came together as a school, we really thought about who would embody and really encapsulate the theme for this celebration, the series of events, which is continuing the dream, continuing the journey. There was no one better that came to mind other than Professor Harris. So Professor Harris, thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you. With that, I'm going to introduce one of our great students in the School of Engineering. Oh, see, I done messed up already, y'all. The order done messed me up. We want to introduce Dean Jennifer West, who is the Dean of the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll just take a quick minute before turning it over to Manny for the more interesting introduction. But I do want to really thank Professor Harris for being here today. And I want you all to know he is one of the top engineers in the world, right? So he's a professor at MIT. He started off his undergraduate here at UVA, graduated with honors in aerospace engineering, went on to Princeton to do his master's and PhD in aero and mechanical. He has been on the faculty at MIT, been chair of the Aero Astro department there. He's been dean of engineering at University of Connecticut, back to MIT. He then in 1995 was elected to the National Academy of Engineering. And as young engineers, you guys may not understand how meaningful that is, but that is really kind of the top honor for engineers in the United States. And when we look at how meaningful that is, so we graduate about 136,000 new engineers every year. Okay, so that's the annual input of engineers. We put about 80 to 85 people into the National Academy every year. So when you look at kind of that flow of people, that says about the top 0.06% of engineers end up in the National Academy of Engineering. So that is proof to you that we have brought before you one of the very best engineers in the world. On top of that, within the National Academy of Engineering, Wes was recently elected to be the vice president of the group, reflecting the amazing leadership he's brought into the National Academy. So, we're really, really lucky to have him here today. But in addition to being this extraordinarily accomplished engineer, he also brings a really unique life story where he came to UVA in the early 1960s in the midst of kind of the Jim Crow era. He started off wanting to be a physicist, and the college didn't admit Black students at that point. So he did engineering because that was the pathway that was open to him. I think that paid off well as a decision, but that shows you how quickly kind of the history has changed and developed, that within kind of our lifetimes, that there was a point in time where that was the case. And during his time here, Wes made huge impacts and really worked not only to excel in his own studies, but to change and make the world and make UVA a better place for everyone who would come after him. One of the amazing stories is he was instrumental in helping to bring Martin Luther King to speak at UVA in 1963. I really like collecting my connections to people who have 1 degree of separation to someone really amazing. And so I feel special to add that connection. Throughout his lifetime, Wes has really been a champion, both for excellence in engineering, but also in making this world a better place for all of us. So I am so happy to have him here today. And I would like to introduce Emmanuel Kenskoff, Manny, who's going to give a very personal introduction for Dr. Harris. So Manny.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you to everyone. As I started doing research a couple months ago about Dr. Harris, I've noticed that a lot of the stuff that he did in his journey to UVA Engineering was a lot similar to my own. When my guidance counselor back in high school was considering me to apply to colleges, a huge part of it, at least to push to UVA, was that she saw me as being the catalyst of being a great engineer from a predominantly white institution. Because she saw that there weren't that many Black engineers at this institution, and that me being a strong, forward person who could put my mind to wherever it is, I can be able to succeed at this institution, especially since it's a great research institution. And so, with this in mind, she also saw me as someone who could be making a positive impact both at the university and in Charlottesville. And also in that Dr. Wesley Harris is a perfect role model for me. Some of his many accomplishments include being the first Black man to live on a lawn, going on past university to receive his master's and PhD, being a vital and active member in the civil rights community, and bringing legends to ground such as Martin Luther King Jr. And as I reflect on the past 2.5 years at my time at UVA, Dr. Harris' experience has made me grateful for some of the decisions I have made personally, mentally, and academically. He has encouraged me to make wise but impactful decisions that can further my impact in the Charlottesville community, and to help me consider my work in my undergraduate degree, in future graduate work, and career exploration. Within this time at UVA, I've gone through many academic and social changes, especially because of COVID, which limited me to what decision that I had during my first and second years. However, throughout the pandemic, I became the membership chair of the National Society of Black Engineers, a peer advisor for also academic affairs, a student associate at the Center for Diversity in Engineering, a deputy member of the Washington Literary and Debate Society and Literary Union, as well as the Class 24 representative for the Questbridge Executive Board. For next year and a half that I have left, I constantly think about the things that I want to accomplish before I graduate. Some of these things include wanting to live in a lawn, become the president of the National Society of Black Engineers, scoring an internship this summer, and hopefully receive a full-time offer down the line. Also want to be able to make an impact in the Charlottesville community, whether that be assisting low-income students or even low-income families, and whatever that means, whether it means by food, it means by helping get better education resources, or even helping them to become financially literate, to help promote generational wealth. I'm proud to call Dr. Harris a role model, not only for myself, but especially for many in the Black engineering community who see Dr. Harris as the catalyst for us to continue our journey in engineering and reach greater heights, even if we feel that we don't belong, even if we feel that we're behind the rest of our peers, and even if we feel that engineering may not have been the best choice for us. As I wrap up this speech, I just want to say to all of you that we must remember that alumni are essential to our mental health and to the mental health of all the students here, as well as the academic and career successes of all our undergraduates that come through the engineering school. They are the reasons why many students keep going despite the rigorous coursework that we face daily, the bridges that help solidify students seeking their first internships or full-time jobs, with employers of a diverse portfolio of companies, and the workforce that make transitioning into the field less stressful and awkward, as they will be familiar faces that can launch into building a network in the office. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Meara Habashi and Dr. Harris for the fireside chat.
Thank you, Manny. That was excellent. And thank you, Dean West. I am super excited to be sitting here next to Dr. Wes Harris. Before we get started on my questions, and then we'll open up for your questions, Dr. Harris will start with some opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Let me know if you cannot hear me, but good afternoon. I want to offer my sincere, humble thanks to Dean West, Mr. Bland, their staff, students, and friends. I want to say thanks for the very warm welcome, the easiness, the stillness really as well, to return to the university. A drive down from basically Leesburg this morning gave me ample time to reflect and think about this university and its place, as many have said, to make all of us more human. MLK, and in a few weeks, it'll be 60 years since he visited with us and gave a lecture in Old Cabell Hall. And it was an opportunity to meet him, an opportunity to share a meal with him, to learn from him, and to be inspired by him as well. So I thought I would ask some questions, or first to make a statement of what my objective is. First, to respond to the invitation, which I'm blessed to receive. But my comments, my conversation with you this afternoon is not to convince you of a given cultural position or political position, but I simply want to advance with you through a very quiet, rational, quiet, still conversation. That's what it's about as far as I'm concerned. So, what does an old man do when he's asked to talk to his grandchildren, right? 64. You guys are about the age of some of my grandchildren. Some questions. Meetings like this, what is in it for us? All of us. For me, for you, for our community, for our friends, for our family. What do we really want to take away from such an encounter? Is it free body diagrams? Is it electric circuits? Is it AI algorithms? Is it all of that plus something else? And let us have a conversation together where we learn what the composite is of what it means to be human, not just to be an engineer, but to be human. So, some more questions. Dr. Martin Luther King, how would we describe him? Would we say he is a civil rights leader, a Nobel Prize winner, a Black Southern preacher, a prophet in the sense of Isaiah of the Old Testament, a saint, a martyr, a theologian? Will we dare describe him as America's greatest advocate for social justice? Or would we say he's an engineer? Would we dare say that Martin Luther King was an engineer? If we go through this list of possibilities, we would challenge ourselves, what makes a saint? What makes a prophet? What makes a person or a human qualify as a theologian? What is it about Dr. King would move Wes Harris to even ask us to engage in a question as to whether Dr. Martin Luther King was an engineer? What's the intersection, if there is one? Is it orthogonal? Is it oblique? Is it parallel to what an engineer is and does? For example, up on the Rock at MIT, I had a student working on his PhD. He had an idea, and that idea became an hypothesis. That hypothesis generated questions. To answer those questions required action, and the result must be assessed. This young man said that hexafluorophosphoride, when heated, can be used to eat up electrons and re-entry of, let's say, the space shuttle. Why is that important? It frees up the communications channels, the S channel. But the idea, the hypothesis, the key questions, the proof, and the assessment. Dr. Martin Luther King had an idea that led to an hypothesis. Let's take something simple. Human rights. Or in the Deep South, my home, civil rights. Okay. He believed, he wanted to prove that you could, in fact, receive civil rights in this country. He asked himself several questions. How do I do this? Is it a local issue? Is it a national issue? Is it an international issue? And how do I answer those questions? And once they're answered, what is the assessment? I mean, that kind of thinking suggests a parallel to what we do every day, all of us here as engineers, and those of us who are not engineers. But the thinking, the structure, the architecture is there. So I challenge us in our conversation to think about Dr. Martin Luther King not as a limited Southern preacher or a theologian, and that's it. But he also was a person of structure. He performed as we do, as engineers do. And I thought that intersection is not orthogonal. It's not oblique. It's parallel. And the lines may never meet, but they don't rub either. There's no friction. Okay, so I think we were on the road to a good model. Before I stand for these fearful questions, so as a student here on grounds, 1960 to 64, when there were no women undergraduate students, there may have been a few in nursing. There were no black football players, no black basketball players, no faculty of color. I was fortunate enough to meet two faculty members who became my mentors. And I think it's very important that I share this so you know where the credit is due. One has passed, Professor George Matthews in Aero. He I think, has passed as long as 15 years ago, so you certainly have not met him. The other is John Scott, Professor Scott, who is still alive. I think he's in his middle or late 90s now. They all were faculty members in the Department of Aerospace Engineering at that time, not MAE, but a standalone aerospace department. And they made a difference in my life. And if I've been able to make any contributions in engineering and contributions toward humanity, I owe credit to Matthews and Scott. Okay?
Thank you for that. And I think our students can relate. I think many of them have that person that they can turn to, that really, can help mentor them. And if you haven't found them yet, definitely seek them out. I want to start, since you already talked about kind of your experience with Martin Luther King. James mentioned our theme this year for the MLK celebration, which we celebrate throughout the month of January at UVA, is celebrating the dream, continuing the journey. And in many ways, you started MLK's journey at UVA, right? You invited him here in 1963 to give a talk. But even as we look today in 2023, we see this kind of fierce urgency and call for justice, right? As you reflect on kind of your experiences since meeting MLK here at UVA and your experiences across your career, right? As you reflect on your own journey, what's changed? And you mentioned a little bit about women being on campus. That's different, right? But also, how do you think we learn from that past as we move forward, since we keep seeing history repeat itself?
Okay, so first, let us all acknowledge the substantial change from 4,000 students to 20,000. I think at least 20,000 here on ground at the moment. There have been many distortions in my life. One is I never had the experience of seeing a woman solve a differential equation until I was actually able to teach at MIT. I didn't have a woman in a class here at Virginia, nor at Princeton. I've never seen a woman colleague, elbow to elbow, solve a differential equation. Okay, and that's a distortion. You get things all mixed up and confused in your head and your experience if you don't see, if you don't feel and touch and understand what's going on around you. So the fact that there are now women here at Virginia, at UVA, I think is something we should not ignore. It's been a major advance. The second big change is the diversity in the student body and the faculty. Unheard of in 1960, 1964. Unimaginable. It just was something beyond the capability of our students and our faculty and staff here at the university to perceive. So something has happened to us, to humanity, that has changed the direction, changed the complexion, and changed the actual value added that this university provides, because it is now representative of humanity as opposed to some distortion. It's representative of humanity, and I think you can never lose sight of how important that is. It is representative of humanity. And our engineering needs more humanity, not less. The dream fulfilled. I think this university has taken and will continue to take major steps toward that. I don't see a ceiling. Okay, I don't see an isotope. I don't see we're approaching some limit. I think we will continue to grow. We will continue to be richer, brighter, smarter, more humane, more compassionate, more creative, more dynamic, more robust, more capability to withstand and to support change, to be better engineers, really. Okay, and that can come about, I think, primarily because of you, what you bring to the table, your intellect, your compassion, your sense of rigor, your ability to be rational in your thought, your ability to be quiet and still and understand and go forward with that understanding. Your ability to accept differences. One thing that was a part of that first wave of Black students on ground was so in the 60s, if you were to look at a Black person, what did you think? Did you see intelligence? Was that possible in the 60s to see a Black person and think that that is a source of intelligence? Right? And that's what that wave was about, and trying to make those adjustments with so little help. And the third person I want to add that and helping us was Paul Gaston. He also has passed. He was a professor in the college. He was a professor of history, not in engineering, but the professor of history. So what do you see? Now I can look out in the audience, I can see humanity. And I know all of us, all of you have come with gifts of intellect, of compassion, I couldn't do that in 1960. It was not possible. So it's been major advances, major changes.
Thank you. So let's stay with MLK for just a little bit longer, right? A huge part of UVA Engineering's mission is to support and prepare students to be leaders, right? Part of our mission is to educate future leaders. Evoking Dr. King's philosophy, right? Leadership was central and core to his philosophy. What does leadership mean to you, right? And in your experience, how can our students embrace those ideals that Martin Luther King passed on?
Okay. Leadership. The world has produced all sorts of leaders. Good ones, bad ones, and even some invisible ones. If we limit, I think that statement is true, if and only if we limit leadership, meaning there's someone falling behind you. But a true leader doesn't ask to be a leader. She comes as a result of the community understanding the direction that she is offering, the gifts that she brings to the community, the intensity that she brings to the community, the compassion that she brings, the sacrifice that she brings. I mean, leadership, in my opinion, must come up from the community. And those gifts emerge. I don't think leaders are born. I think they do mature. I think their interpretation of an experience leading to their position and their worldview is what's so critically important. And Dr. King himself, out of the Deep South, Alabama, Georgia, etc., no one would have predicted Dr. King to be a leader until he was thrust into a situation where his strengths, his gifts had to come forth in order to show his compassion, his love, and respect for the community. And there have been some great engineers, by the way, who also have come up the very same way. There's a man probably you don't know. His name is Wally Hayes, Hayes. He grew up in China. His parents were missionaries. He was one of the first Americans to earn a PhD at Caltech in aerospace. He didn't know how to do experiments. He couldn't pick up a screwdriver. But his intellect, his analysis was absolutely superb, and a very, very compassionate man. He would force us in class to lecture. You had to give a lecture in his class. Okay, and this guy wrote the book, but he's very compassionate in doing it. He always guided us to the point where we had the lecture down pat and always adding value, improvements. And he was a leader. Wally Hayes was a leader in his field because of all of those things, not because he was such a great mathematician or applied mathematician, but he worked so much, so well with young people, guiding them, leading them, supporting them, encouraging them, and occasionally offering critique, but critique with recommendations. Yes, criticize, but you must have a recommendation. You can't say the puppy is ugly unless you can change that. Critique with recommendations.
My puppies are really cute.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. So let's talk about your engineering journey for a little bit, right? And so Dean West mentioned that you initially wanted to be a physicist, right? And moved into engineering. Tell us a little bit about that shift and how you've kind of, you are one of our most successful engineering graduates across our engineering history, right? What did that journey look like for you, right? How did you make those choices and put yourself in in the right places to be successful?
Right, thank you. So as Dean has said, I wanted to be like Eloise Bowes Washington, my high school physics teacher, the African-American woman who went north to the University of Pennsylvania in the late 40s to earn a master's degree in physics and returned to Richmond to teach in the public schools. And in those days, that meant teaching in the all-black segregated schools. She had compassion. And she was my mentor. With her direction and encouragement, we built a cloud chamber to investigate the collision of water droplets or alpha particles on water droplets. And we took that project to the Black High School Science Fair and won first place. Mrs. Washington said, let's take it to the White High School Science Fair, which we did, and it came in third. It was the White High School Science Fair was here on ground at the University of Virginia. This was 58, maybe. And Mrs. Washington never forgave herself for the third place win. She thought we came in third because of her failure. The solution was, Wesley, you will go to the University of Virginia. So in those days, you salute your teacher and say, yes, ma'am. And that's what I did. And she said, Wesley, you must go for three reasons. Three reasons. One, you're black, and anybody and everybody that see you will understand that. There's no ambiguity there, Wesley. Second, you will generate absolute scholarship. I'll come back to that one in a moment. And the third one, Wesley, they can't kill you. They can't hurt you. Whatever it is about you, you will survive it. Okay, so here I am. I want to be like Mrs. Washington. I want to be a physicist. Okay. The College of Arts and Sciences would not allow blacks to enroll, to matriculate in physics or chemistry or math or English or Spanish or anything else. We only were allowed entry into the School of Engineering. So within engineering, it was aerospace, my favorite. Why? Because my siblings would kid me, tease me as having more airplanes at home than the Air Force. I built model planes, so then I obviously want to gravitate toward aerospace. Okay, so that was fine. We'll get to UVA, meet Scott Matthews, and they went to Princeton for their PhDs. They made sure I went to Princeton for my PhD. At Princeton, my advisor was George Biankowski. So we solved the problem that was outstanding in those days with an anomaly of a conservation principle with shock waves and gas mixtures. He said to me, Wesley, this is Princeton. The thesis is not the big issue. You're going to have a quality thesis. But what I want you to take away with your education at Princeton is the following. You must know what and how a well-posed problem comes about. No matter what field it's in, what's the well-posed problem? Second, out of that well-posed problem, what is it you want to do? What is the hypothesis? Okay. Third, what are the key questions surrounding that hypothesis? Next, what are the tools? Experimental, analytical, computational, machine learning these days, AI, whatever. But what are the tools? How do you apply those tools, and how do you know you've answered, you've resolved that hypothesis? He said, Wesley, that's what you've got to take away from Princeton. And you've got to keep that in front of you and your students going forward. So that was a blessing. I mean, that was a blessing, guys, to be trained and educated that way when a faculty member takes you aside and says, this is what it's about. It's not about that thesis alone, but you've got to take away the strength, the foundation, the fundamentals. So my comment at this stage is listen to your advice and counsel. Always ask the question, what's fundamental? Not what's transitional, but what's fundamental that you're after. So after Princeton, came back to UVA, taught here 2 years, maybe 3, and then 1 year at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then to MIT. And that journey, starting with Biankowski, the richest part of the journey has been students. You know, a PhD student graduates being stronger than his advisor or her advisor. Okay. That's the only way you get a PhD, that you are stronger than your advisor. You've gone deeper. You actually know more about the topic than your advisor. And I've had students 5 times deeper and brighter. And it's been a joy. It's been a joy to wrestle intellectually with this body of students of intellect from around the world, men, women, people of color. It's a blessing. It's a career that I'm very proud of. It's not, yeah, it's been the crown jewel. The students. And maybe when I think of Eloise Bowes Washington, Matthew Scott, Biankowski, how they took me under their arms and sheltered me, I think maybe some of it may have rubbed off. And I appreciate what students bring and how I should react, how I should take advantage of the gift that students are bringing and return in such a way that it's a win-win. So the journey as an engineer has been rewarding. I would do it all over again. It's led me to meet some outstanding human beings. Another person, humans, people are so important in this equation. So how did I get to MIT, right? What happened? In those days, there were no internet. There were no cell phones. No laptops. Leon Trilling would call me once a week. Leon Trilling was a professor at MIT, like Hawala Hayes, a PhD from Caltech. Leon Trilling family left Poland in 1933, before the Nazis really got to be nasty. And they found their way from Poland to France, to Portugal, to Cuba, and eventually to Southern California. So Leon was a perfect European gentleman, spoke several languages, I remember I was asking him a question one day, and he was writing a paper in French. And he actually continued writing while I'm responding to my question. I could only speak English now. So Leon Trilling kept calling. I said, okay, Leon, either I'm going to tear the phone out of the wall or I'm going to come to MIT. So at his invitation, I went up to MIT in August of 1972. And he's been a mentor. I would not have earned tenure at MIT without his guidance. Leon Trilling was another major force in my life. You probably never hear of him. You probably never read a research paper by Leon Trilling. He did some monumental work in aero, applied mathematician like Hayes, but his real love was people. If you ever get to Boston and do some history of the public schools, the METCO system, Leon Trilling, an aero engineer from Poland, Caltech, actually built the METCO system around Boston. Fascinating people. People. That is the ingredient that we can never get enough of. It's people. So, Leon Trilling and all the rest were part of my world line, my trajectory. And these are really high points that I'm just so pleased to and proud of and really blessed to have had. Not everyone have had such an experience. You know, some people aren't good mentors.
So people are important. So you heard Manny talk earlier about the importance of alumni, right? And seeing folks, but you and I also talked about the importance of mental health of our students as well, right? And Dr. Harris said that when he was a student here, it was 4,000 undergrads. He was one of 7 Black students on this campus, right? 7 out of 4,000. And I know that some of our students in the room from underrepresented backgrounds might sometimes feel like they're alone, right? They don't have people that they can turn to. What advice would you give those students in particular?
Okay, yeah. So when I was here, there was no one in your chair. There was no one in Dean West's chair. There was a dean, I'm sorry, but it just wasn't like Dean West. So 7 among 4,000. How does one of those 7 earn his or her degree in those days without being scarred psychologically? And the reason it was a challenge is because there were no signals coming toward us that we were humans, that we had intellect, that we were on this campus to generate scholarship, that we, in fact, could compete. That wasn't present. You know, it was sort of like, you guys are here on a program where you are designed to fail, okay? And we had this, the existential question was, and maybe still is, why are we here? Why are we here? For Eloise Bowes Washington, the question was clear. The answer was clear. You are there. Generate absolute scholarship. As a high school physics teacher, she made that very clear. So, if this support structure, James included, isn't there, what do we do? How do we balance that? How do we get up every morning? How do we go to a math class when the math teacher is going to make disparaging remarks based on race? Nothing else, based on race. So that begins to wear on you, and you have to fight that. flashes like Gaston, Scott, Matthews, the good fortune of having the opportunity to have a conversation, to listen to a lecture by Dr. King, all made a difference. Am I completely free of any scars? No, I'm not. No, I'm human too, right? So something has happened to me, and I just can't deny that. But for example, you all, each of you, will graduate from the University of Virginia. You will be in the class of 2024, 5, 6. You'll have friends. You'll actually bond for life. You'll exchange greeting cards. You'll go to each other's weddings. You'll name some of your children after those you've bonded with. You'll gladly introduce your spouse to your friends. You'll shake hands. You'll embrace when you meet. Now that's a part of a college experience, is those kind of relationships. That was not possible for the 7. Who would I hug? Who would I shake hands? Nobody's gone to my wedding, nor I to their wedding. So that those blocks are missing, right? And I can't deny that. They're simply missing. Okay? So enjoy, appreciate where you are and where you can go. Don't be afraid now. You can never, fear is not a part of this. Eloise Rose Washington did not know any fear. No fear. Preparation, yes, but no fear.
And I'll finish with one question and then I'll open it up. So you talked a lot about compassion. We talked a lot about engineering. What piece of advice would you give to all the students in the room who want to marry those two things, right? So many of our students want to be compassionate engineers, right? Want to work towards kind of creating inclusive design and inclusive engineering. What would you tell those folks? One piece of advice that you'll leave our students with.
Oh, wow. So engineering is changing. You have an opportunity to add value that maybe my generation did not, by actually having on the table before you put everything together the requirement, the constraint for compassion. See, that was never part of the equation in my education, my training. But if you draw the design sphere big enough where you include elements of humanity and compassion, you can actually do the engineering with that as a requirement, not as an add-on or an afterthought. And I think you could make some progress, significant progress. But you have to think creatively, and you have to, if you're going to put compassion on the table, someone at the table must really understand compassion, right? So it's not just one person doing it. You have to work with a team. So don't give it up. No, you're going to cut new paths, do so. Don't be afraid of it.
All right, I will open the floor to questions. I think we have a handheld mic that maybe we can pass around. The handheld mic as people. Oh, thanks, James. Sorry. Questions for Dr. Harris?
Thank you. What would you say to somebody who would feel as though they may have some doubts regarding their capability of becoming an engineer? Maybe they're struggling or feel some doubt in their capabilities. What would you say to somebody like that?
From Pittsburgh, right?
Yes.
Sort of. All right. So Eloise Bowes Washington, my physics teacher, she refused to allow us in her physics class to be tutored or to tutor. You couldn't do that. You had to do it by yourself. And if you're successful, though, you don't have these fits of doubt. So I'm biased because of that background. To answer your question, start small. Do things that you can do very well. Add complexity, add difficulty, solve those problems until you get to a point where you are able to march and run as fast as anyone else in the group. For example, parallel analogy. I want to bench press 220 pounds. Okay. I want to do 3 sets of 10 reps of 220 pounds. How do I do that? I start with reps of 50. Then I can do 100 pounds. Then I can do 150 pounds. I can do 175 pounds, 200 pounds, 205, 215, 220. But I start gradually, build up till I get to my goal. Building confidence and foundation as I do it. So find a way to approach your target that solves the problem of anxiety, of some concern about what you can do. You have a unique gift, the gray matter. Okay, use it. Use it. Refuse to accept defeat. Accept the way to obtain your objectives. Okay, don't sell yourself short. Don't ever do that. Okay, believe that you can find a way to move, to understand, to solve problems. For example, if you remember what you did in grade school, you added before you were able to do division. At least I did, right? Is that what only my generation did that?
No.
We added before we did division.
You always start with addition.
Right?
You always start with addition.
That's a good reason for that, right? Right, okay, you got fingers, toes. You can add. There are many ways to add. But division, hey, you got to think a little bit. What's this all about? How does it relate to adding? Right? Okay, so that's my response. Okay, don't give up. Find a way to get yourself strong. Okay?
Another question?
I'm just going to stand up because I'm standing in the back. What would you say to a student who feels lost? Because I know a lot of students, especially first years, feel lost in their career path. And have you ever felt lost in your journey through engineering and continuing on? And, that's my question. Thank you.
All right, so I didn't get your name or where you're from. From? Oh, Richmond, my hometown. Okay, good. All right, so lost, students being lost. No, I think it's a pandemic. I see it more and more up on the rock at MIT than I ever have. The fastest growing segment of MIT's administrative staff is counseling. Including students in heavy depression, students that are truly lost. So I don't have a silver bullet for that one. Recognize the degree of your concern or loss or depression, and develop a support network. There's no dishonor in being lost. There's no dishonor in having a state of depression. Given the environment in which you live, in which you are growing, with so many options, so much sparkle in front of you, you can very easily get things confused and get lost. If there was one path, I think you wouldn't get lost. But as Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Uh-oh, how do I take a fork? I mean, I have only one brain, one set of eyes. I can't go left and right at the same time. So realize your environment and how complex it is. And don't, if you're truly lost, truly depressed, build a support network, get some help. Get some help. Sometimes it's a lover, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's your pet. James and I saw a fantastic black Labrador retriever at the rotunda today. I mean, a beautiful dog. I love dogs, guys.
Me too. Got 3.
Yeah, and the gentleman, that student who had him, clearly was in love with his dog. It was very impressive.
Other questions? Yeah.
Hello, my name's Ryan. My question is just, how would you approach a paradox? That's all.
What?
How would you approach a
I
paradox?
heard him.
Like a problem that's a paradox. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, like at all. Not even in the Martin Luther King way.
See, a paradox in my world is there's no left or right. It's just a paradox, right? There is no well-posed problem. Things are so nested, so intertwined, that I can't unpack them and lay them out and go at them. There are multiple forks, and I just don't know what to do. Can I be cute?
Yeah.
Throw the paradox over the wall. Yeah, I can't, I don't have a decent answer. I must honest, I can say, I don't know how to handle a paradox. I probably have walked away from 1 or 2 in my life, and these are not related to engineering, but they were human situations, people involved that, and clearly impacted me. So a paradox, there's no win, right? There's just confusion.
Walk away.
Yes.
Oh,
Go on, please.
I was wondering what was one moment or any inspiration that at one point in your career that gave you some sort of strength or clarity as to the future, or some sort of inspiration, I guess. Sorry, the question's a little bit convoluted, but
Yeah, I think the strongest point of inspiration was George Bienkowski at Princeton, when he took me aside and said, Wes, what you really want to take away from this experience is not this thesis, but it's the ability to understand a well-posed problem and to how you're going to go about solving it, and to break it down, to give you the structure. Because, see, what he was saying, so long as I stay in my lane, fluid dynamics, there's no problem that I should be afraid of. I can go at it. I have that structure. So, see, so that was the most inspirational piece. Certainly practicing as an engineer. It was George Bienkowski. By the way, he died very early. He Princeton has a bicycle race in the city of Princeton itself, and you lay out markers so the cyclists know what the route is. So he was laying out the markers on his bike. He was thrown from his bike, broke his neck, and died as a result of that accident. He was probably in his late 30s. Yeah. George Bienkowski. PhD from MIT. I think he earned his undergraduate degree at Imperial College in London, and then to MIT for his PhD.
So I think we'll take one last question and then we'll be done.
Hello, my name is Jessica Brown, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I've enjoyed your talk, as I know all of us have. And throughout your talk, you mentioned so many great engineers who really impacted your life. And you, as a great engineer that I know, you've impacted all of us. And you spoke of an attribute of being compassionate. And so I'm just wondering, what other attributes do you think make someone a great engineer that can leave impacts on the people that they meet?
Okay, all right, compassion. Integrity. Integrity is right at the top. Integrity when you're working with people and your relationships, integrity in your science and your engineering and your products. So compassion, integrity. Respect for your colleagues and peers, including respect for your customers who are going to use your products. I mean, really respect for them. They're not a source of money. You know, you work with your customers with full respect, where your customers can make your product even better if you trust them and work with them. Yeah. So compassion, integrity, respect for your customer are certainly the top three, I would say. And that last one, that respect for customers, it's probably fairly hard sometimes to do that, because some engineering products, we do it in a laboratory space and we don't see people. We just don't have a feel for them. But somehow we've got the muscle that into our thinking, into our designs, into our deliveries. Thanks for asking.
I love that question and I love that answer, because I want you to notice he talked about 3 things that make you great people, right? Math and science were not mentioned, right? You can learn math and science, but integrity, respect, compassion, right?
Yep.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. I
Thank
love
you.
ending on that note. I want to thank Dr. Harris for joining us and for talking about both his journey and kind of offering you advice. We have some refreshments here, so please hang out and eat. And I'm sure Dr. Harris will be happy to mingle and talk and answer questions.
Sure.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.